Nestled in the lush rolling hills of West Sussex, Arundel Castle stands as a stunning, iconic example of medieval English architectural magnificence and historical grandeur. With its towering keep and fairytale turrets, the castle commands awe-inspiring views across the Arun Valley, drawing visitors from around the globe to bask in its opulent halls and exquisite gardens. And as you stroll through its lavishly decorated rooms, it is easy to be transported back through centuries of royal banquets and splendid ceremonies, each corner and corridor echoing the footsteps of dukes and duchesses. Yet, behind its imposing facade and majestic presence, Arundel Castle harbours a lesser-known legacy of vulnerability and decay. Indeed, there was a time when this iconic edifice of heritage and power teetered on the edge of ruin, neglected for years, and the once resplendent castle once even faced the grim prospect of disrepair and deterioration, risking the loss of its historical essence and architectural beauty. In today's episode, we'll explain how such a legendary castle avoided this harrowing end, and the meticulous restoration process that saved one of Albion's most beloved structures, as we describe why Britain's historic Arundel Castle escaped destruction. Arundel Castle stands today as a spectacular mosaic of medieval architecture, extensively restored and remodeled over centuries. Initially built during the Norman era by Roger de Montgomery in the 11th century, the castle is a showcase of Norman and Gothic designs, with each architectural element narrating ancient tales. And if you were to visit the castle today, your tour might begin with the keep, the castle's most defining feature, constructed in the 12th century by William d'Albini II. This robust tower, replacing earlier wooden fortifications, commands a view over the River Arun and the South Downs from its vantage on a motte, and climbing its steep, narrow steps offers a glimpse into medieval strategic defences that deterred centuries of invaders. Adjacent lies the formidable gatehouse, built around 1070. This main entry, complete with a portcullis and drawbridge, served as the castle's protective barrier. And even today, its medieval prowess is tangible as you walk beneath its imposing structure. Nearby, the Barbican, an external fortification designed to trap attackers, demonstrates medieval military ingenuity with its thick walls, arrow slits, and battlements. This particular feature was crafted to ensnare enemies in a deadly labyrinth before reaching the castle's inner sanctum. As you move inside, the castle's 19th century Gothic revival enhancements would be evident. Under architect Charles Alban Buckler and the 15th Duke of Norfolk, the castle embraced a Victorian aesthetic, enhancing its medieval foundation with pointed arches, intricate stone carvings, and elaborate tracery. And the Grand Baron's Hall radiates historical presence, lined with portraits of the Dukes of Norfolk and furnished with 16th century continental pieces. This hall, along with the nearby Regency Library, outfitted in Honduras mahogany and home to more than 1,000 books, reflects a blend of regal elegance and scholarly depth, prepared for Queen Victoria's visit in 1846. Now, the ethereal Fitzalan Chapel, founded in 1380 and the burial site of the Dukes of Norfolk, highlights the 19th century Catholic revival in England. Its stained glass windows and decorative mosaics of vases and orange trees create a serene atmosphere, inviting reflection amid its historic and solemn beauty. And outside, the castle's gardens express horticultural mastery. Opened in 2008, the Collector Earl's Garden, designed by Isabel and Julian Bannerman, pays tribute to Thomas Howard, the 14th Earl of Arundel. It features a mix of fantastical and structured elements like a shellwork grotto, a golden fountain, and a rockwork mountain. Central to the garden is a formal court, divided by a canal pond, bordered by cascades and surrounded by a wildflower labyrinth. The gardens, under head gardener Martin Duncan since 2009, blend sustainability with tradition. They include a wild water garden, a restored Victorian peach house, and a vinery filled with exotic plants. Of course, the crowning feature of this area is the rose garden, recognized for its meticulously selected blooms that contribute to a contemporary floral tapestry which earned the 2021 South and Southeast in Bloom Gold Award. Moreover, the gardens transform into a vibrant display during the annual Tulip Festival, featuring over 120,000 tulips in a dazzling array of colors. Yet, there was a time in the not-too-distant past where this breathtaking estate was on the brink of decay and largely forgotten by its illustrious owners, the Dukes of Norfolk. Let's turn over to the next chapter to find out exactly how Arundel Castle went from a borderline set of ruins to the majestic refurbished masterpiece we get to enjoy in the 21st century. Arundel Castle's foundations are deeply rooted in the drama of 1066's Norman conquest, and this formidable fortress owes its inception to the strategic savvy of Roger de Montgomery, cousin and right-hand man to none other than William the Conqueror. Now, while Roger did not clash swords at the Battle of Hastings, his contribution was no less pivotal. His role as Normandy's governor during William's campaign in England was crucial. With the conquest complete, William rewarded his circle of stalwarts, gifting Roger a sizable swath of Sussex on Christmas Day, 1067. With the newfound title of Earl of Arundel, Roger set about creating a bulwark against any threat to his sovereign's reign. The chosen location was a hill overlooking the River Arun, a site that promised both strategic superiority and panoramic views of the South Downs. Next, the construction of Arundel Castle began in earnest in 1068 with an ambitious project, an artificial mound or motte, rising over 100 feet above the dry moat. This monumental task symbolized Norman architectural ambition and marked the landscape with a clear signal of the new order. Atop this motte, a wooden keep initially rose, symbolizing the nascent stage of fortification, simple yet effective. Then, the transformation from wood to stone marked a significant evolution in the castle's fortitude. By 1070, the first stone gatehouse had been laid, signifying a shift towards more permanent, imposing structures. This blend of flint rubble and imported Caen stone not only solidified the castle's physical presence, but also its status as an impenetrable Norman stronghold. But Roger's strategic acumen extended beyond construction. The castle's placement on the Arun was no accident. The river was both shield and supply line, a natural moat against invaders and a conduit for resources. This foresight ensured that Arundel Castle was not merely a military installation, but a lifeline in the Norman hold over southern England. And the keep itself is a tale of transformation. Its initial timber form was eventually encased in stone, employing a banded masonry technique that alternated layers of local flint with the lighter tones of Caen stone. And this design both fortified the structure and created a striking pattern that enhanced its aesthetic and structural integrity. Now, as we well know, Arundel's story continued well past Roger's death in 1094, witnessing sieges, royal intrigues, and marriages that would introduce new blood and new chapters to its storied walls. In the next chapter, we'll dive into the legendary guests and hosts that graced the halls of Arundel over the centuries. Arundel Castle has charmed a parade of English monarchs through the centuries, serving up a platter of grand feasts and high-stakes political intrigue, all while doubling as a royal pied-à-terre. And indeed, the castle's entanglement with the echelons of power stretches from the Norman invasion to the crisp folds of the Victorian age. Now, the castle's initial brush with royalty sprouted in the 12th century during King Henry I's reign. Following the demise of Roger de Montgomery, the original Norman mastermind behind the castle, Henry bestowed the fortress and its verdant surroundings to his second wife, Adeliza of Louvain, as part of her dower. Adeliza's subsequent marriage to William d'Aubigny, who was soon anointed the first Earl of Arundel, kicked off a flurry of architectural enhancements, most notably the stone shell keep that crowned the motte. Amidst this backdrop of construction, the castle hosted a crucial chapter in the anarchy, a bruising civil war for the English throne between King Stephen and Empress Matilda. In 1139, after docking nearby, Matilda took shelter at Arundel, enjoying the hospitality of her stepmother, Adeliza. Enraged, King Stephen swiftly encircled the castle, but decided to let Matilda continue her journey to Bristol, sparing Arundel any war scars. Fast forward to the 16th century, and Arundel Castle had woven itself into the fabric of the influential Howard family. The castle transitioned into Howard hands via the marriage of Mary Fitzalan to Thomas Howard, the 4th Duke of Norfolk. However, Thomas's tangled plot to overthrow Elizabeth I and install Mary, Queen of Scots, as ruler led to his tragic execution. The castle's saga took a dramatic turn during the English Civil War, a stark period marked by the clash of royalist and parliamentarian swords. Its strategic significance and stout defences made it a coveted prize, and the conflict saw Arundel Castle change allegiances multiple times, each shift leaving a lasting imprint on its venerable walls. In December 1643, royalist forces under Lord Hopton claimed the castle, bolstering it with a robust garrison. However, this control was fleeting. By month's end, Sir William Waller, a cunning parliamentarian commander, besieged Arundel. Despite the Royalists' efforts to fortify their stronghold, the harsh winter and the numerical and artillery superiority of the parliamentarians led to the Royalists' capitulation on the 6th of January 1644. The parliamentarian triumph at Arundel was thus a crucial setback for the Royalist cause in the region. It allowed the parliamentarians to tighten their grip on Sussex and cut off Royalist strongholds. Furthermore, the parliamentarians, determined to thwart any Royalist resurgence, ordered the slighting of the castle, a calculated move to strip it of any military utility, leaving its mighty architecture in ruins. Yet, the castle's woes were far from over. Therefore, Arundel Castle fell victim to the ravages of time and political tumult during the late 17th and early 18th centuries. Once a formidable fortress, its glory days dimmed as the castle was eclipsed by the allure of more fashionable urban estates. Owned by the prestigious Dukes of Norfolk, Arundel Castle's decline was not sudden, but rather a gradual surrender to the elements and the era's political shifts. Sadly, the Howards often turned their attentions to their London residence, Norfolk House. There, the pull of political manoeuvrings and the glitter of social galas held more appeal than the maintenance of a drafty old castle set amidst the less frequented landscapes. And the neglect was palpable. Essential repairs were deferred, allowing the relentless English weather to breach the castle's defences. The once sturdy stone walls, left unchecked, began to succumb to the slow but steady assault of wind and rain. Interiors, once echoing with the steps of nobility, began to host only silence and decay, as wooden beams and stonework alike fell prey to the relentless march of time. Despite these adversities, the Howards remained the castle's owners, albeit inattentive ones. The family's gaze was fixed firmly on their urban engagements, leaving Arundel to languish as a picturesque ruin, more useful as a romantic backdrop than a residence. This lack of attention was emblematic of a broader trend among the nobility, who found themselves grappling with the financial and social upheavals that swept through England, reshaping priorities and altering the landscape of aristocratic life. By the turn of the 18th century, Arundel Castle was not merely aging, it was verging on the uninhabitable. Thus, it was only towards the end of the century that efforts to restore the castle began to take shape, driven perhaps by a renewed interest in its historical and architectural significance. The 18th century's reimagining of Arundel Castle under Charles Howard, the spirited drunken duke and 11th Duke of Norfolk, kicked off an audacious revamp in 1787. Motivated by a zest to both entertain and reside within its storied walls, Howard set about mending scars left by the English Civil War, elevating the castle from mere fortress to a palace of opulence and comfort. Indeed, his penchant for grandiosity is perhaps best encapsulated in the library, a sanctuary of books that today stands as a symbol of his refined taste in design. This refurbishment alone was good enough to host a memorable visit by Queen Victoria and Prince Albert in December 1846. You see, the 13th Duke of Norfolk, Henry Charles Howard, had spruced up the castle for their arrival, commissioning fresh furniture for the royal suite. The town joined in the celebration, erecting a triumphal arch and lighting the castle's keep with a fiery salute. Queen Victoria, charmed by the castle's allure and the spirited reception, penned in her diary her pleasure at the small but very cheerful accommodations. The visit was marked by opulent feasts in the transformed baronial chapel, with the table shining under the glow of gold candelabras and framed by historic coronation cups. Next, Henry Fitzalan Howard, the 15th Duke of Norfolk, approached an even more elaborate restoring of Arundel Castle with youthful vigour and a profound sense of legacy. Inheriting the dukedom at a tender age in 1847, he embarked on a restoration saga in the 1870s that would span decades, and his mission was to mesh the majestic echoes of the past with the conveniences of the present. Under the watchful eye of architect Charles Alban Buckler, the castle underwent what could only be described as a Victorian metamorphosis. The Duke's vision brought forth a new chapel, its Gothic revival bones crafted between 1894 and 1898, boasting Purbeck marble and a feast of stained glass and intricate carvings, each a whisper of medieval grandeur reborn. Yet, it was the broader canvas of the Gothic revival that truly transformed Arundel Castle. The castle's interiors were transformed with the addition of Gothic elements, including pointed arches, ribbed vaults, and elaborate stone carvings. The Baron's Hall, for example, is a distinguished exercise in mid-13th century Gothic style, with its Purbeck marble, rich stone carving, and Hardman stained glass. The chapel, another significant addition, features Gothic wrought iron standard lights and other period-appropriate fixtures, enhancing the sumptuous quality of the architecture. In addition to the architectural enhancements, the 15th Duke also focused on modernizing the castle's infrastructure. Arundel Castle became one of the first English country houses to be fitted with electric lighting, central heating, and integral firefighting equipment. The installation of these modern amenities was a significant undertaking, with the cost of electricity alone amounting to over £36,000. The Duke also ensured that the castle's water supply, which was gravity-fed, served both the castle and the town of Arundel. Preserving the majesty of Arundel Castle has been an ongoing mission, marked by significant conservation endeavours. The Norman Keep, the castle's oldest portion dating back to 1067, recently underwent a once-in-a-century facelift, and part of this monumental effort included the restoration of opulent 270-year-old wall hangings. The Gobelin masterpieces from the Nouvelles Indes collection, crafted circa 1750, underwent a meticulous process of removal, cleansing and reinstallation, underscoring the castle's dedication to its historical treasures. These days, technological tools have become essential allies in safeguarding the architectural splendor of Arundel Castle, and techniques such as 3D laser scanning and photogrammetry have enabled precise documentation of the castle's elaborate architecture and ornamental details. These digital methodologies foster the creation of exact replicas for restoration purposes and conserve digital archives for posterity. Moreover, cutting-edge structural health monitoring systems are employed to track environmental and structural parameters, including vibrations and humidity. These systems deliver crucial real-time insights, allowing conservators and engineers to preemptively tackle potential issues, thereby securing the castle's structural integrity for future generations to admire and explore. And now, we'd love to see you in the comments. Which iconic British castle would you like us to feature next on this channel? We always try to make content based on what you'd like to see, so be sure to let us know below. With that said, Thanks for joining us for another episode of Old Money Mansions, and cheers. Until next time.